In Washington, D.C., the giant grocery chain has announced a ban on large bags. Great, now where will I shop? Complains one large bag.
We're talking about Russia briefly. You and I have talked before about how Hillary Clinton labeled you a puppet of Putin, a Russian asset. Debbie Wasserman Schultz shamefully said the same. And I saw recently President Trump withdrew Hillary Clinton's security clearance, which you had to do.
Yes.
I mean, that must have been a little fun. Right? Oh, just a little fun.
I smiled.
Of course you did.
Greg Gutfeld and Megyn Kelly didn't just poke fun at Hillary Clinton, they took aim at her entire political legacy like it was a wobbly IKEA shelf ready to collapse. With sharp humor and precise timing, they highlighted years of controversies, failed campaigns, and those awkward attempts to connect with voters, leaving behind a trail of hard-hitting punchlines. Every jab hit with purpose, exposing another crack beneath her carefully built image. By the end, it wasn't just a roast. It felt like a full-on political takedown playing out on primetime TV.
All right, she lost an election, and now she's projecting. Hillary Clinton went on The View this week, which immediately raises a serious question. What's the weight capacity for that stage? But you'll never guess what she talked about. Her love of gardening, the things she does to stay healthy, how much she adores catching and cooking stray kittens. Nah, it was Donald Trump, as expected. But it's like I always tell Taylor Swift, girl, you gotta move on. Seriously, Trump doesn't just live in Hillary's brain. He's built a 500-unit condo with in-unit laundry and a rooftop lounge.
Women should be in jail. Literally, Hillary Clinton should be behind bars. And so should the people who worked for her who did this. This is so blatantly corrupt. She wanted to distract from her email scandal. She cooked up a plan to accuse Trump of being a agent.
Hillary Clinton's political career offers no shortage of material, especially for anyone with a sharp tongue and little patience for recycled talking points. Greg Gutfeld hardly needs a warm-up before diving into the roast. Her record can feel like an all-you-can-eat buffet of controversial decisions, campaign missteps, and moments that make you wonder if she's moving forward or just looping through the same political deja vu.
Hillary, she uses the phrase, what was it? I wrote it down here, handmaiden to the patriarchy, which I think she means she's bashing Monica Lewinsky. I'm not sure. But this only is appealing to an ever-shrinking circle of feminist women, the same who bow to the altar of trans men and keep silent when real women are victimized by really bad men. But again, it's another assigned opinion that's lazily presented, men against women. Whether it's race or gender, as long as you pit one group against the other, they won't look up at you. And this is how the Democrat Party survived.
Hillary Clinton's rise was built on the idea that she was always the smartest person in the room. But again and again, she's shown that intelligence doesn't always mean being relatable, likable, or even politically sharp. Every public appearance can feel like someone who prepared a detailed PowerPoint for every issue but forgot to turn on the projector. She campaigns like she's addressing a mid-90s boardroom, armed with a binder full of talking points, wearing a well-practiced smile, and somehow turning even the most genuine moments into carefully staged photo ops.
Hillary Clinton decided to weigh in on this snub. Greta and Margot, while it can sting to win the box office but not take home the gold, your millions of fans love you. You're both so much more than Ken-O. Is that a reference to the movie? I didn't see it. And then here's the capper. At the end, hashtag Hillary Barbie. She's trying to make that a thing. Some of the reaction online to this, I love this. Clearly, Greta and Margot should have campaigned in Michigan.
She went after the infamous email scandal like it was an Olympic sport. For most politicians, mishandling classified information would end a career. But for Clinton, it turned into a long, drawn-out saga packed with excuses, piling up higher than the server logs. What makes this roast hit harder is that it goes beyond the scandal itself. It calls out the attitude behind it. Not just a mistake, but one wrapped in denial, layered with condescension, and delivered with a heavy dose of "how dare you question me."
Stole his first term as president. these absolute liars who run around trying to act like they're the protectors of democracy, completely ruined it, tried to undermine it at every turn and at the highest levels with lies, with out and out lies that were really serious, and changed foreign policy and changed the course of history in this country in Trump's presidency. And there must be accountability. There has to be actual criminal accountability for those who lied. And I can't wait to see this administration do.
Then there's the 2016 campaign, a highly debated election that is still analyzed in classrooms, podcasts, and coffee shop conversations about how such a closely watched race unfolded. The loss to Donald Trump, now the sitting president, became a major cultural talking point in modern politics. It was often compared to a missed opportunity at a critical moment, shaping how the election is still discussed today. Greg focuses on her challenges in connecting with working-class voters, while Kelly highlights how the campaign was frequently seen as emphasizing celebrity endorsements over more detailed policy discussions.
Seriously, Trump doesn't just live in Hillary's brain. He's built a 500-unit condo with in-unit laundry and a rooftop lounge. Sonny Hostin, the only member of The View not vaccinated for canine distemper, kicked things off by asking Hillary what will happen if Trump is reelected, which is odd because Hillary's an expert on not getting elected.
Her attempts to come across as relatable have always felt a bit off. There's a reason those staged moments rarely land. They seem rehearsed. Most politicians, when trying to connect, might roll up their sleeves, talk about family, or share a personal story. Hillary, though, once tried to win voters over by saying she carries hot sauce in her bag, as if a small detail could erase years of being seen as out of touch. Instead of building a connection, it felt like a strange prop, leaving people wondering if it was part of a comedy sketch. Gutfeld doesn't miss the chance to go after her speaking style either. Every line sounds like it was shaped by a focus group. The explanations keep stacking up, making her seem less like a seasoned politician and more like someone scrambling to explain why they were the first one voted off a reality show.
Too bad she's got less material than a Third Eye blind cover band. And like any old tired act, she stuck to her greatest hits without playing any new stuff. But maybe her new tunes got wiped clean on that server. I wonder if there's always been a streak of violence, of racism, misogyny, anti-Semitism.
There's always been a streak of violence, of racism.
This then dives into her tenure as Secretary of State, where foreign policy decisions seem to follow her like a shadow. Libya stands out as a tragic example of how overconfidence and poor judgment turned a crisis into a geopolitical disaster. We came, we saw, ends up sounding more like bravado than reflection, which feeds into Kelly's critique of how Clinton can sometimes treat serious global consequences like material for late-night punchlines. Then there's her knack for blurring the line between public service and personal benefit. The Clinton Foundation became an easy focal point, not because charity itself is an issue, but because the mix of donors and speaking fees made it look, to critics, less like a traditional nonprofit and more like a platform for global influence. Clinton's post office media presence only adds to the debate. She stayed in the spotlight like a performer on tour, selling books, giving speeches, and repeatedly reminding audiences she won the popular vote, as if saying it often enough could reshape how history is remembered.
For me, she did need to distract from that email scandal, which was around her neck like an albatross. Trust me, we were covering it every night on the Kelly File at Fox News. She had clearly violated the law with that homebrew server that had been accessed by foreign agents. She compromised national intelligence information. She did things she would never have allowed anybody at the State Department.
Greg and Kelly use comparisons and humor to highlight the contrast between Hillary Clinton's self-image and how she is often perceived by critics and parts of the public. In her view, she sees herself as a longtime political figure and a trailblazer who has faced significant challenges over her career. Others, however, view her as part of the established political system, which they feel has struggled to connect with changing voter expectations. Kelly also argues that Clinton's continued public presence makes it harder for her to reshape public perception or move beyond long-standing debates about her political legacy. Some of the humor in the discussion focuses on timing and public appearances, using exaggerated scenarios to underline how media narratives can shape political figures. At the center of the critique is Clinton's ongoing focus on her legacy. Her speeches and media appearances are often interpreted as efforts to frame her political history in a broader context, including her perspective on elections, challenges, and long-term impact on American politics.
You'll want to hit mute when they bring on the demon in a pantsuit. Yes, with election hopes waning, Dems promote Hillary's complaining. On Tuesday, the joyless Joy Reid welcomed Hillary Clinton to her horrendous show, and Clinton was in full GOP bashing mode. It's just like the good old days when Bill was accused of misconduct and Hillary roamed the halls like She-Hulk in a pantsuit.
Yeah, I am.
So yeah, that's over for her.
And a number of other people, by the way, when you look at the 51
Mark Zaid, I love
former
that.
intelligence
Sorry.
officials who signed that Hunter Biden disinformation letter and never apologized for it, never held themselves accountable for it. Yes, Mark Zaid, you had Letitia James and
Why
others.
did she even have one?
Well, some of them didn't have clearances, but they had access to classified information, and so we took away that access.
Greg takes aim at her self-pity, while Kelly pushes back on the narratives, reminding everyone that history judges actions, not excuses. The roast never really runs out of material because Clinton keeps feeding it with her occasional social media appearances. Awkward, forced, and often met with the same wave of criticism from the audience she's trying to reach. Her interviews tend to recycle the same talking points she's been using for years, like a playlist stuck on repeat. Meanwhile, her supporters continue to defend her as a uniquely essential figure for democracy, even as election results since 2016 tell a more complicated story. By the end of it, Greg and Kelly paint a picture of Hillary Clinton's political career as less of a straight line and more of a repeating cycle of ambition, controversy, denial, and reinvention that never fully resolves. Every comeback feels like another sequel nobody asked for, and every appearance brings back familiar debates about her past. Still, the spotlight stays on, the cameras keep rolling, and Clinton keeps speaking, meaning the conversation around her is far from over.
And, they're going to try to ignore him for as long as they can because they're deathly afraid of him. And they're going to do to him what they did to me in the Democratic primary of 2020, which is pretend you don't exist. And then if people start noticing you, then they will try to smear and cancel and destroy him at all costs.
I remember what Hillary did to you.
Exactly.
Yeah, and she's still standing.
Baseless smears that repeated over and over and over again by the propaganda media until people actually start to believe it. And it starts causing some real damage.
But the next chapter still points to more awkward attempts at relatability, more efforts to reshape the narrative, and more evidence that some political brands don't really retire. They just keep rebranding. If anything, the pattern suggests there's always another Hillary moment waiting just around the corner, ready to spark fresh debate. Her public image machine never really shuts off. Even now, Clinton stays active in the media, weighing in on current events with the confidence of someone who still believes the world is closely tuned in. It's a bit like releasing a CD in the streaming era and wondering why it isn't topping the charts. Every so often, she tries to create a spontaneous moment in public, but spontaneity is hard to pull off when everything feels carefully planned. Whether it's a book tour or a staged-looking coffee shop interaction, there always seems to be a layer of distance between her and the crowd. These moments come off less like genuine voter connection and more like promotional appearances, polished, scripted, and quickly forgotten once they're over.
Hillary Clinton argues Joe should be, quote, direct and forceful, end quote, against Trump in the CNN debate. Yeah, direct and forceful, just like the noose I put around Epstein's neck. If I did it.
Her speeches often feel like the product of overthinking every detail. Every word seems reviewed by multiple layers of approval, leaving little room for warmth or spontaneity. In an era where authenticity can decide elections, Clinton still appears to lean on precision and polish over a more personal connection. Gutfeld mocks her delivery as having all the charm of a tax reform PowerPoint presentation, while Kelly critiques the content itself. A mix of familiar grievances and carefully framed achievements that can read like a resume written to impress someone who made up their mind long ago. Then there's her tendency to bring discussions back to herself, even during major global events. No matter the issue, the narrative often circles back to her experience or how she might have handled things differently. The pattern rarely changes, a version of events where, if she had been in charge, outcomes would have been better. It's a framing that overlooks a long history of mixed results and political setbacks. Over time, the messaging begins to feel repetitive. Same themes, same talking points, just repackaged under different campaign branding. with little else fundamentally changing.
Is not just an aberration where one or two people or a small group engage in that kind of violent rhetoric and urge people to take action against political figures. We're seeing a whole political party.
All right, Ben Franklin. I know this is whataboutism, but
Her attempts to critique younger politicians often miss the mark. Instead of stepping back and passing the torch more gracefully, she can come across like a professor unimpressed with a new generation of students. That approach risks alienating voters who might once have respected her, while also making her seem locked in a contest that most others have already moved past. It creates the impression that she's trying to prove relevance by measuring herself against a political landscape that has already evolved. Even her memoirs, carefully framed to revisit her past, become easy targets for criticism. Marketed as candid tell-all accounts, they can feel more like curated exhibits, presented as transparency but still tightly controlled in what they reveal. Still, the most striking part of the broader critique isn't just about her past. Hillary Clinton's story continues to unfold. It has the feel of a political saga that never quite reaches its conclusion, an ongoing series with no final episode. Whether people watch out of support or skepticism, they keep watching, and that alone ensures there will always be another chapter.